That was your cue in? That was your big moment?
It was. Remember on Wayne's World when they're like, do you remember Wayne's World?
I remember it. I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah, when they're trying to like count them in.
All right, what's going on?
We going to Crazy Town today?
We can go Crazy Town.
We promised people Crazy Town.
Yeah, let's go.
Conspiracy Theory Wednesday.
Okay, before we get into it.
Yeah.
All right, so what is a conspiracy theory?
Well, it's a theory that has little evidence to prove it. Not very likely. Something that maybe a small group of people believe about a well-known event or situation. That probably isn't correct. But sometimes it is. It's going against the norm.
So the Shakespearean conspiracy theory, right? Where you had in the darkness of behind the scenes, those conspire to a certain end. So a conspiring theory where what you see is not what really is a conspiracy theory, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at it, say something happened and it wasn't authentic because someone behind the scenes engineered something different than what was presented to you. That's the way I accept a conspiracy theory. Now, why do you think the conspiracy theories are so unpopular? And why the people who believe in them are almost, it's an insulting way when, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. So why is that? Because I'm telling you, Caesar would disagree that conspiracy theories aren't an important thing to consider.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think people will kind of judge you if they think you're a conspiracy theorist. They think you're crazy. You know, you're maybe not all there. Especially if there is more evidence to believe what they think happened rather than an alternate theory.
Who would benefit from you doubting conspiracy theorists?
Who would benefit from you doubting them?
Yeah.
The people trying to conspire
exactly
against you.
So yeah. My theory is that, even like with big things like UFO sightings and whatever, if the government didn't want you to believe those things, like if you had evidence, what you would do is you would undermine the credibility of the people who observe these things. And so you would try to make them low caliber, low intelligence. And then it's like, oh, you just believe in UFOs, right?
Yeah.
So even if I'm looking at one and I snapshot it, I'm like, even though I'm seeing it, if I tell anybody, nobody's going to take me serious, but they're just going to call me a conspiracy theory kook and dismiss me. And that's it. So good advantage to the people that are in control, that are conspiring, are the ones that diminish people who believe that probabilities of some of these conspiracy theories being absolutely true.
Yeah. Like I know if I've done something or I'm doing something and you start questioning it and I don't want anyone to know about it, all I do is question your sanity and make you look bad and discredit you. And then
do you think it's healthy for someone to say, well, what if this is the thing that's unlikely to be true and unpopular? It's important, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can be, I think it can definitely muddy the waters in some situations to where it's like, oh my gosh, like when people start talking about, maybe it's RFK and vaccines and things of that nature. They think it's unhealthy to question things that they believe is safe and rooted in science and could be detrimental to the public. Whereas other people would say, no, it is healthy to question things and get more information about things. And just, you don't want to stop learning about something in case new information comes to light. So I think it kind of depends who you are and what the situation is.
So, math people really don't give two shits about what people say, want them to think or feel. It's all probabilities, right? And so when you explore the universe and you explore things here on Earth, when you explore cultures and people, it all comes down to mathematical probability. So if I said, what is the probability of the sky being purple, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so mathematics people are going to have a different take on it than people who just buy whatever they see. And a lot of people, like the Matrix deal, a lot of people want the illusion. They really want it. If you say the sky is purple, right?
Yeah.
They're going to say, what the heck are you talking about? Or if you say the world is not a spheroid, right?
Yeah.
They're going to say, no, don't you see the illustrations and the mappings and, what satellites have documented? And then, so you have two different conversations, probability people and people who want to buy in the illusion. So I dismiss people who buy into the illusion because they don't really want to know truth at all. Mathematical people are curious about wanting to know what is real and what's not.
Have you ever been in a situation where the more you learned about something, the more you were like, I wish I would have never asked. Like, I don't
no,
even
I have a
wanna know.
curiosity that's insatiable.
Yeah?
Like you put something in me and I just want to learn as deep as I possibly can.
You've never been like, you know what? Just don't. I just want to go back. I don't even want to know anymore.
It breaks illusions. And those are the people who want to buy into like the United States is good and it's virtuous, doesn't cause any problems. They want to buy into the brand that might not even exist. Or this celebrity, like when I worshiped them as a celebrity and I found out who they really were, like it diminished me. I already assumed that what you see is just been marketed to you and it's not how things really are.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I go for big things like physics and time travel and all that kind of stuff. So you will never get enough information to know truth or not, but it's an exploration and the potentials, probabilities, and truth as much as information can be gathered.
Do you think you are becoming a little bit more of a conspiracy
I've always been
believer?
one. Like I've never not been a conspiracy theorist.
Really?
Yeah. But there are very few people that are interested in the theories, right? They're the big ones, the ones that become political, like RFK or JFK assassination, moon landing, whatever. Those are fun to go through.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, even if you figure them out, like where do you get? Okay.
Yeah.
I will tell you definitively, JFK was shot by inside people and lined up by the CIA. The moon landing that we saw on television didn't actually happen. And the earth is probably not a sphere. So that's just
So not even may not be, but you would say probably not.
probabilities. And it's probable that we are in a simulation where everything's a fabrication. So all of these things, I have aligned myself with enough truth to say, I'm going to orient myself like those things are true. And I don't need anybody else to go along with it. There's no benefit. But if I orient myself, I can benefit from the truths and knowledge that these conspiracy theories are real.
And when you say we're in a simulation, you're talking about life in general. This is just all a simulation.
Yes.
So what keeps you then continuing rather than being like, none of this matters? I'm not doing any of it.
Well, if you play a video game, right,
Mhm.
that's a simulation. Why
Yeah.
would you play a video game? Because it does something to your brain. You get to live out some kind of fantastical challenge, and it's fun. So
But you can choose to stop and go back to the real world. Do you think there's like a real world?
well, I think this lifetime is a single game session. So I think when we get done with the single game session, we move on to another game, and in the Russian nesting dolls, the one inside of that.
Yeah. But you can't really stop. You don't have much of a choice to stop. If you give up and say, I'm not playing this game anymore, I'm not going to do things I have to do, I'm not going to deal with people, I'm not going to,
and you're taking sort of like the connection with it. So for instance, when Neo got put into the Matrix, he sat in the chair, he got that thing pushed in his head, right?
yeah.
And they discovered later how to get out of the world by picking up a phone and having data transport them back to the real world, or someone ripping the thing out of the back of your skull and you die. So there wasn't like I'm in a simulation, I don't want to be here anymore. They had to do something. And maybe we just haven't discovered the transport or the method to get back. Because that phone thing doesn't make any sense, by the way.
No,
It doesn't.
I mean, it's a movie, so
Right.
it doesn't.
So-
but
So like the thing that goes into your brain is basically connecting your activity up to the network. Okay. So it's almost dialing into the internet is what it is. So when you want to get off the internet and you hang up the phone and hang up the deal, then you would just assume the local session back again. Well, the storyline is that when you die in the simulation, your brain doesn't know any different. So when you disconnect, your brain dies, right? And that didn't make all that much sense to me. So maybe the phone creates a tone that writes it. That there's some gaps in how that actually works.
I have to rewatch The Matrix. It has been so long. so long, maybe high school, since I saw it, that I really have to go and like follow it now. And I think I'll get more out of it now. But I've
Okay.
never seen the second one either. Is the second one similar?
Same premise, just more fighting and slow motion bullet shots and whatever. There's more
yeah.
characters, more villains. So
if somebody came to you and said, Joe, and they could say, hang up the phone, do this, whatever the action is, and you will leave here and go out to this other world.
yeah,
Would
to
you
the
do
nesting
it?
doll world. Oh yeah.
You would do it?
Well, if I'm done playing the game, like there's not a good reason just to flirt with going on the outside.
Yeah.
Just
What
to
if
come
they're
back.
like, but everything here, is not there. Your family, your wife, your
might not even
kids,
be
your
that. You
job,
might not
your
have a physical
hobbies.
body. You might be the brain in the jar. Like there might not, and that's why I play the game while you're here and make the best of it, because it's a short time anyway. And then if the eventuality is you go back to that world once the game's over, then so be it.
That's why we've talked before about, like, how bad does your life have to get before you willingly and voluntarily say, I'm ready to check out. And to me, I'd almost never go that route because it's so final. Like, and I know I will get there anyways. I'm gonna get there. Let me just have every last bit of experience here first. That's a creepy thought, though. Yeah. Although it's better, to me, the idea that there is something else is better than the idea that there is nothing, that we just cease to exist, our bodies decay in the earth, and we're just gone. We're just like our consciousness.
Well, and
is just
and that
gone.
and the two that are correlated are, you have an infinite universe, right, of tons of different galaxies and solar systems. When you look at the numbers and the amount of space, and like you take the pinpoint of where Earth is and that life is there, and then you look at just how many Earths are out there, like we're talking trillions to a multiple of trillions of potentials for life to exist. So the probability that in just sheer numbers that there's life outside of us is super high, right? Mm-hmm. But then you consider, like, if there was a life form like us that's on the solar system, and we launched the Voyager missions, right, in the late 70s, and they are in deep space just now. And when you take the size of our solar system and think, how long would it take to get to another solar system? There's just not time enough to have gotten beyond our own solar system. So that's why our exposure to what's out there is limited, to where we might not know that there are other craft. Like we assume that other life forms are ahead of us. What if we're the most ahead? There's got to be someone that's first at the race, right?
Yeah.
What if there's 50 other civilizations close by, but they're still working with fire and working on the wheel? And
or what if we are so far behind that we don't
and
even
everybody's
see them?
ahead? It could be either way. And yeah.
Wow. I can't even imagine. Like I don't even think the human brain can picture the vastness. I don't even know how we found out that there is something beyond our solar system. How do we even know that?
Well, we have excellent ways of, and again, everything, these topics sort of like cascade into other topics because they lay down principles, sort of like a format to have an understanding of things that we just currently don't understand.
Yeah.
And so long that you take it as a scientific exploration rather than I want to believe in aliens because, I like green men and it's kind of fun, versus probabilities are that there are life forms. I don't know what they are. And if you had, let's just say you had the cosmic stew that created biological life and you spread it out and shot it out into the cosmos, right? What are the chances that that biological life assembles itself in the same way that we did? So that
I was just going to ask you, what would be crazier to you, to find an alien life form that is just not human, alien, but still life, or to find another universe of people just like us?
Right.
That might be crazy.
So you take like we're a carbon-based life form. So there's one element that we're aware of, right? Mm-hmm. That we are all based on. So now let's just say a corner of a different universe or a different galaxy picked another element and life developed based on that element. So not only do you have the infinite possibilities of carbon-based biological life forms, now you might have a a lithium, I'm just picking it off the chart, a lithium based life form. But instead of cells and blood and bones and whatever, what if it's more data oriented, where you have the construct of a living being, but it didn't take on biology like we know it. It's a completely different elemental biology.
Yeah.
And I'm using biology because we're all carbon based. We think through the lens, but there would be another word. It wouldn't be biology. It would be whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the scale of possibilities are beyond what we're capable of understanding. But the premise is that if you took animals and put it on different continents, and you started with just a simple cell, and you put it in different environments, each one of those animals are going to, over evolutionary, timelines, are going to become completely different animals. You can take Galapagos and, Australia and whatever, and they're different, branches of its evolution. You do that with worlds apart and, and galaxies apart. Now you've got like some weird stuff that could come together.
So how does this, not to go too far off the subject.
Yeah.
But how would that then fit in with the idea of like faith and God? And, if people want to follow Christianity and think that God made us, we didn't evolve from anything. We came straight from him as is. Does that mean other things on other planets that are formed differently then are not of God?
Well, God created a story for us, right? What if God has stories for all of the different experiments? He doesn't have to tell you that he created on, star number E537, that those are your brothers over there.
Yeah, this is the story of Earth.
He might have lots
of. You don't know the story of.
But I say he, and religion sort of like makes God into a physical person that has to carry physical person attributes and capabilities. Well, if you've got the creator of the universe, it doesn't have to be any of that. It could be a spirit, an energy. It could be anything. Whatever form it is, our relationship with it is what makes it, understandable by us, and it's very limited.
Yeah, human attributes really then is just how we are able to communicate and understand ideas. So we give those human attributes to this.
But you have to think like the creatures that are above and below. Like we're at the top of the food chain, and so that our understanding, it's almost like we have to look upward to something that's bigger than us, because we know there is something. There's always something in a hierarchy. There's always something above wherever you're at. So let's just take your Men in Black deal. You have the aliens that are living in the locker. They can't talk. They have no understanding, right? So they're trying to make sense of the locker opens and there's this thing. That is their God, the thing that is above wherever they are. And in that locker, there's things below them. And the things below them look up to them like they're the God of understanding. So now the real question would be, what's above God? Does God have a God? And then, the omnipresent, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? Because you can't even see beyond the thing that you have to have a faith to even have an understanding of. The second dimension above that, like, you're worthy of not even thinking of that, or not even worthy of that. Did your mind just leak out a little bit?
It did. So Emma Lobros are saying, question, Joe, what's some of the biggest conspiracy theories that were proven true?
I can't say them. I can't.
Why? Because the government will come get you?
I can't say them because they were pretty recent and they're on the list of things not to talk about, I think.
No.
And so, yes, a recent thing that, everybody's sitting around and unbiased, and we're looking around at the details and data, and there's some missing elements that don't quite make sense. So you latch on that, not necessarily that but it's probably not that.
Yeah.
And those people that bought into it ended up being very, very right. And the people who wanted to buy into the illusion were very, very wrong.
Yep.
And you can fill in all the gaps that you want into that.
Carter says, the one that bothers me most is the World Trade Center collapse in Building 7. I never thought about it until the best architects in the world cast doubt on how a steel-framed building could just fall straight down. Your thoughts?
I'm not bought into at that, because you have to, like, for the narrative, you have to say, like, what is the conspiracy? Who's the
That
game?
somebody else caused these buildings to
Yeah,
collapse.
what interest? Like, if you're saying like it's an insurance scam and somebody just wanted to collect, there are much easier ways to collect insurance money on a falling building than what you saw there.
What about the idea of going to war? And we need to rally a bunch of troops and people that are ready
So
to
the
go
conspiracy
fight.
is that there were no terrorists on the plane. We crashed the plane in it to collapse the buildings and to justify a war. I've not heard that one.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that it was almost like we need a war. We need a reason to go after this country or these people or this organization for whatever reasons. Could be money, could be power, could be just safety of the
Okay, so
United
construct the
States.
storyline. So CIA operatives go grab some terrorists and they get them all amped up to jump on a plane and martyr themselves, and then you collapse the building using, traditional, demolition deals. So now you achieved your end. You collapsed the buildings. We went to war. Now, what is necessary in conspiracy theory or conspiracies is to have control of a small group of people that can make all the decisions. Okay. If it's too big, where you have too many people that have to go in line and not ever talk about it and never, you kind of lose things.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's unlikely that you can control enough people that could do the, like, you think through, like, I'm a CIA operative and I get a bunch of people and I tell them lies. Say one guy that gets the terrorists on board, gets the federal government to play along. I think that's way too many moving parts for having a small group to be able to do that. If it was just the demolition side, yeah, you can do that because you're only involving one country and a subset of people. But that sophisticated type of operation would mean that we'd probably be aware of it by now. It's worthwhile still thinking about it.
Well, could that then lead us into I did a little list of some conspiracy theories. Could that lead into this idea of New World Order? Have you heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
What the New World Order is, and it's basically what a certain group of people, there's so many, control everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that happens. Some people even go down to like the Illuminati's part of it, and like Beyonce is somehow part of it, and it's politicians, musicians, entertainers. It affects everything we know, and it's one group of people that are just controlling the puppets of everything. So could it be that if this were a setup, the New World Order was in control of it and controlling all those different moving parts?
See, I think the New World Order and the Illuminati and the groups that sort of like get to a strata where they can nudge things and they're untouchable, right? I think there's constraints that how far they could take something. It's almost like they can do simple things, but complicated things are harder. So I don't think that in those positions, like, for instance, like a George Soros, right? He gets to a level where he has FU money and he could just do whatever he wants. So he can create groups underneath him that do things, and he filters money down, and those things end up happening, right? So he has immense control over politics and media. So you could say that he's one of the new World Order people. So why does he do it? He's a political guy and he has the means. So he nudges things along in a political direction, and nobody really can touch him because he has so much money and he's created so many layers of buffer that even if you drained him, like you took him out of the equation, that layer of what he's created underneath him would still be able to fund everything for generations. So that would be like the foundation of what a new world order. So there's probably an economic new world order. There's a war new world order. There's a trade new world order.
You think there's multiple? You think?
Oh yeah, for sure. In different departments.
Well, it's interesting. Like when it comes to the new world order, this information I was looking at is they're meant to carry out secretly staged events and to deliberately manipulate economies.
Yes.
Which if you buy into the fact that all these different people are part of it, a lot of the people that are accused of being part of it are on opposite ends of the political spectrum. Is that just for show, you think? Like if people that are considered Republicans and people that are considered Democrats and people that, in the public eye seem to be opposing each other are all supposedly part of all this, then I guess you'd have to believe that like the New World Order itself is putting on a show to be like, we can't let them know that we're all in cahoots together. We have to stage some opposition. And
well, just like anything else, when things become bigger, the gravities change in the controlling area. So let's just use an example. We're going to create a gas station cabal, right?
Okay.
We are going to control all things gas station. So the market says that if I set up a gas station, I compete with the guy across it, I have suppliers and whatever. But we've got a lot of funding, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a gas station and we're going to go to the guy across the way because two people are better than one. And we're going to say, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're both going to charge the same price. We're both going to have the same refreshments. We're not going to compete. We're actually going to align ourselves. We're going to conspire to set whatever we want. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Some guy comes into play that, is not following the rules. We either buy him and now we have a third gas station, or we destroy him, murder him and get rid of him. Now our suppliers are kind of getting in the way because they've got market forces. So now we're going to extend the wealth that we have and buy all the suppliers for our gas station. Now less people can touch us because we control the input and we control the output. You have enough money and you buy enough stuff and you control enough of the factors, and then a new gas station that comes and sets up on the street thinking that there are 5 gas stations that they're competing with, all of a sudden have no customers. They're constantly getting robbed, right? They don't even want to do it anymore. And they get chased out of the marketplace. They can't understand why the gravities that they thought as part of the illusion of a free market weren't actually real, because the cabal of gas stations, controlled enough to make it less less possible for a new person to come in and do what they're doing. That's the New World Order in a nutshell. So would you, as the cabal gas station, would you lay down defenses so nobody could ever touch your gas stations? Would you pass laws that made it easier for your gas stations? Would you give yourself advantage because now you can?
Yeah.
And make it so that nobody can touch you? There
Yeah.
it is. So it's corruption, but it's legal as hell.
We see a lot of that.
Yes. But now you take the gas station example, and gas station's a physical thing, but you take it where you have, 1,000 times the money in a gas station, 1,000 times the, you could just be obscure in the background. Nobody even knows your name and what you're doing. So you have all of the resources. You have none of the oversight. You have governments that are managing people, but they're not looking upward. Like, how would I even manage a specter that's in the middle of Libya? I don't even know their name, and they're controlling all these factors because they have wealth and influence. You don't, right?
Yeah. I saw somebody one time say, I don't even remember who he is. I don't know if he was like a professor at a university or something. I saw him online, and he had said, you can vote for whoever you want to vote for president, but once the president is elected and goes into the White House, then the men in blue suits come out and they're the ones who actually run things. You think there's like this group that doesn't matter who the figurehead is.
We just had a president that was freaking brain dead for 4 years. And you notice all the wheels still turn.
Yeah.
And there were even things that you would think that Mr. Biden did that he didn't have the capacity to do at all. So yes, you could elect a potato sack and the wheels would spin.
Do you think that somebody like Trump is still adhering to these blue suits, these other people, or do you think it maybe works a little differently?
Well, I think they have 2 modes. They have the mode that they manipulate you and control you and make you think that you're actually in the driver's seat, and then you have the ones that won't play nice and they just destroy you and replace you with somebody else. I think they prefer the Bidens because there's nothing, they don't have to do anything. They have to use some sophisticated ninja controls on you, right? They could just do whatever they want to do. And then when you look at what Trump can do and what he pushes up against, and if he was like, I want to do X, Y, Z, and how much force comes back at him to try to entangle or ensnare, or stop something from happening. You're like, those are the gravities that are enforced by the bureaucracy is what we call it.
Yeah, because if you think about it, this is going to sound insulting. I don't mean it to be, but it will. If you think about like a lot of the pushback on things that he tries to do, does it sometimes feel like the pushback is coming from not very intelligent people, like not very powerful or intelligent or
Let me give you a better
influential?
word. Let me give you a better word. It's bought in and indoctrinated. Let's use De Beers, for instance. All right.
Okay.
So De Beers took a worthless rock, right? Charged a premium on it by using the same strategies that we're talking about here, right?
Uh-huh.
And you could go and say, now I've told you that, all right? These people, all they did was they just bought all the mines so that they could have all of the supply, right? And then charged you 20 times. And I can take that same person and say, oh, you're having a wedding. Right now that you know that this is a worthless rock, that the only reason it costs what it does, what's your wedding ring going to look like? And you will buy the wedding ring that has a diamond after knowing it's a worthless rock because you're bought into that wedding ring's just what you do. And I'll be different if I don't buy the wedding ring. So they got you and they got everybody else by the buy-in.
Yep.
Suckers, right? They made a lot of suckers who have bought into the illusion. And they'll continue doing it even when they know the truth.
It's all in marketing, really.
I've said this, and nobody really knows what I mean. Everything is marketing. And
yes.
the more nefarious the people that are doing the marketing, the worse the illusion is going to get.
My uncle told me a story one time. He used to live in California, and he worked in this building. I guess it was like a big sort of office building. And he worked for a company that supplied coffee to the different suites and offices and things of that nature. And he says one day this guy came to him, this was years ago, and he was like, hey, I've got this great buy-in for an up and coming. You need to get in on this with me. It's this new coffee company. And he's like, all right, what's it like? And he gave him a sample. My uncle said he tasted it and was like, this is terrible. This is the worst coffee I've ever had. No, I'm not buying into this. That's a terrible business. And he's like, I'm telling you, man, it's going to be big. You need to get in. And he's like, no, I'm out. That's not a good product. Well, that ended up being Starbucks. And to this day, my uncle is like, I'm telling you, all Starbucks was amazing marketing.
100%.
It made you believe
it's
this
terrible
is high
coffee.
end.
It really is.
Yeah. And he says, and then all of a sudden it was like, the basic girls that just want to hang out there and they have a cute logo and they have frou-frou-y stuff. And it's marketing.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
And that's the thing. That's why, when you say that conspiracy theories or the people that buy an illusion are unintelligent, it's really not the case. You buy into the storyline, what's closest to wherever, whatever your culture is, right? And you want to buy into the illusion so bad that even when told, hey, you know what, here's the coffee, here's what its actual production value. They've got about 19 cents in that coffee, and they're going to sell it to you for $5 because you are paying for the programming to get you to keep buying the overpriced coffee that is terrible tasting, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to be like, okay, now I'm never going to do business with them. And then when you're driving by, you're like, I'm going to stop for Starbucks. I mean, it's not that you're dumb. You're just indoctrinated into that system.
Yeah. Brendan says, I'd take an excellent cup of coffee any day over a diamond. You really can't sell either back for much anyway.
Yeah.
Coffee over a diamond? I guess I've bought into the illusion of what that
And I just told
is.
you it's a worthless rock.
I know, but it's a pretty rock.
And you would buy the diamond
wear
today.
It.
Mm-hmm.
I would more likely have money for the coffee rather than a diamond. But if somebody were saying, do you want a cup of coffee or do you want a diamond? I'm going for the diamond.
Okay.
So on the idea then, everything is controlled.
Yes.
Maybe
not on purpose. Like it might not be a contrived control. It's just a lot of ad hoc mini controls that add up to, the end product that we see in our.
So do you not necessarily believe that there is a purpose? There's a group that is purposely affecting things and running things for whatever reason.
I don't think so. I don't think that we are good enough to control and precise enough to keep that going long term. I think it's coincidental that they add up to something rather than on purpose.
So in the event that, and we're not saying that we believe this, but if we entertain the idea that 9/11 was a facade, didn't happen, or at least didn't happen the way we think it was. Would you think that that is something that isn't totally out of the realm of believable? That it's possible?
Oh, it's absolutely possible. I mean, you got to look at the construct of war. I mean, when you would watch like the Revolutionary War, you had this line of soldiers that would come up to, and this line of soldiers would they all pull out their guns and they would just pick each other off. Who thought that was a good use of human capital, standing 20 feet away from each other and blasting into each other? And someone's like, oh, a lot of people are dying during this thing. We can't do this indefinitely.
Might not have been a good.
Could we solve our problems differently? And one guy says, hey, let's do the diplomatic route. And then the other guy's like, no, I got cannons, right? And then we're like, oh, let's do the cannons one. Now we can stand further away, and we can stand further away, right? Now we go all the way up to missiles of today and nuclear bombs and whatever. And I'm thinking like, all right, there are 1,000 other better ways to not get into war in the first place, right? And there are a handful of people. It's like, it's sort of like in your family, like everybody won't make the decision. So it ends up on one person to say, well, fine, like I'm not the best suited here, but nobody here actually wants to decide. So it rolls up to a person who says, yeah, let's do the war thing. And so depending on who the end result decision maker is where we'll end up a majority of the time. But you replace them with the peace person. What if that person just loved peace so much and no one else would make a decision on how to resolve the conflict, but it gets to the peace person and like, hey, let's make peace happen. Then we'd say, hey, every time that something happens, we go to the table and we solve things with peace. It just so happens that the controlling factors have evolved from war makers, probably going back, even before the Revolutionary War, so that our major deciders are people who really like war more than peace. I said my piece. I know. That was
okay. So events can be staged.
Yes.
Events can be fake.
Yes.
Have you heard of the conspiracy theory of crisis actors?
Oh, yeah.
These are people that typically in things like, I don't know if you're allowed to say.
No, don't. If you don't think you can't, don't.
I could say Columbine, and we all know what happened there and things of that nature, where they are hired actors to portray either victims, first responders, anybody that you would see sort of in the media. These traumatic events are staged. Victims and their families are being portrayed by covert crisis actors, implying that either the event didn't happen at all or wasn't exactly what we thought happened, and the people we're seeing on TV are actors. Do you think, now that we know that things like NGOs exist and, people that sort of go and cause a scene at riots, and I've even heard about seeing news stories on TV where they have B-roll of footage from a totally different event. Like that happened in another country, that happened in another year, but they roll that footage while talking about something else. It's not what we're actually seeing or hearing about. And these things happen. So do you think crisis actors are far-fetched?
Not at all. So, okay, let's use the logical. And this is sort of like proving each step until you get to the point where you think something is likely or not. Okay, so you're going to put on a concert, right? So you hire people to get on stage and perform. And the one thing you do not want is nobody to show up for your concert. And every day you're worrying about, I need to sell tickets to people. Yeah. What if, would it be worse to have nobody show up, right? Or pay a bunch of people to show up so I can say at least there was a full crowd.
It looks good.
Okay, so do you think ever a venue pays people to be there?
Yes.
Okay.
Seat fillers at award shows.
Okay. So do you think that the people that are performing bring their family?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the audience is not just people who bought a ticket. There could be 95% the people in it other than the ticket holders, right?
Yeah.
Sponsors get free tickets, paid people to be there to fill out and round that whole thing out. So the first level is, does it happen and can it happen? The answer is yes. So if you take anything that has spectators, audiences, how many of them are authentic? So we can use sort of like high volume things to get an idea of what's accurate and what's not. Twitter, for instance. Okay. Do you think everything you read on Twitter is posted by a human being?
No.
Okay. Do you think that everything that's posted on, or do you think that 80% of the stuff you see on there was not at all put together by a human being? Would you believe that?
80%, maybe.
Okay. So when Elon Musk took over, one of their first things that they wanted to do is find out how many were human beings. They were selling advertising rates based on actual people, and almost, I think it was a little over 80% of the postings were done by bots. So not human beings. So if you had 1 million subscribers and 80% of them were not, you don't have a very big crowd. You have an AstroTurf crowd because bots aren't doing the keystrokes. They are mass posting things on your platform.
Yeah.
It can't watch your ads. They can't buy your products. And so your advertising rates were 80% too high because they weren't actual people.
And is that why? So typically when a bot posts something, and maybe it's a bot, maybe it's just a troll, I don't know. A lot of times it's something offensive and it gets interaction. Is that kind of how they work? Is like, I'm going to generate interaction, which is going to generate whatever it is they're trying to push. Because
what do you mean? What their reason would be?
Yeah. Or like if they're not really going to be able to contribute to ads or anything of that nature, bots can then be used to influence other people.
The way that it happens is bot farms, someone establishes them and then they rent them out to people. So it could be anything. So if I had a 2 million subscriber bot farm, somebody can come to me and say, hey, I want people to think that, global warming's happening. And then they pay me $2,000 a day. I let them use my bot farm, and all it does is push that message out. So it becomes the distribution of misinformation and propaganda, depending on who's willing to pay me for whatever. So those controlling factors, those people with big money, they rent these bot farms and push out their messaging to control the masses with that marketing.
This is interesting because this leads into another one I saw.
Okay.
And then we'll go back to some of these comments. The dead internet theory. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
Dead internet theory. It's the dead internet theory, aka most of the internet is fake. Citing posts from major online discussion forums, responsible for almost all online activity and content creation. Concept is that AI and chatbots automatically churn out social media posts designed to farm clicks, comments, and likes on platforms like Facebook and TikTok. They do this because more engagement leads to more advertising dollars, but the accounts responding to those automatic posts are in turn bots and AI agents, the conspiracy claims. So in other words, everything is happening between machines, no humans needed. You go deeper down the rabbit hole, and some dead internet proponents argue that government organizations use these bots to manipulate human opinions.
Yeah.
As in nothing you see on the internet
very
real or people.
Very, very few, right?
Yeah.
I would say a minuscule percentage. So we'll use email as an example. So email was a good method of communications. When there were just 10 of us on the internet, it was really good because I sent it to you, you sent it to me. I could see the email. It was 2 human beings. And then people were like, oh, I don't have to pay postage. I've been doing this mail marketing and it cost me thousands of dollars and I could just send something to you. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to send it to you in my marketing message. It's not, it's not something that I need a correspondence from you. It's just, I can capture your attention and force a message on you. So when you look at, I used to manage a mail server.
To do everything.
More than 95% of the traffic. Like there was one email account that received 1 million messages a day that translated down to only 30 legitimate messages from another human being. So you could, if you look at the sheer numbers, obviously we have systems that cut out the million messages. They never even get to your mailbox, but a server is actually out there deleting them nonstop. So you could say, if you took just the numbers, if less than 1% of 1% were actually email, you would say email's dead because the majority of the traffic on email is just bots and spam messages that don't have a human being hitting send. It just has a system that churns out millions and millions of messages per second. Same theory.
I see a lot comments on things like podcasts like this, even others, different reels and videos and stuff, I'll start to notice that the exact same verbiage is used. And it looks like a person. Maybe there's a picture, maybe there's a name commenting. Because yes, people on the internet like to comment mean things. But it'll be something mean that would invoke someone to want to reply and be like, you're a jerk, you don't know, blah, blah, blah. But it's the same words, the same sentence, the exact same insult on all different things. And it's like,
that's a bot farm. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a streamer a couple of months ago, maybe it was last year, and she left her bot farm, her bot panel open when she was doing a live stream. And it was basically, so the internet treats you when you have high volume and you have lots of listeners, and it exposes you to more and more real people. So what you'll do is, if like you pop this, like we're authentic, we have 0 bots doing this, and you can see we have just about 25 people that are watching at any given time for this. If I wanted to, I can pop open a bot farm. I can add 1,200 people. They're not real people. They're 1,200 usable accounts. It costs about $20, right? I could pay $20 to get that number up there to show 1,200. The internet would see that 1,200 people are paying attention to this video. I'm going to expose them to more people that are out there, and I can get thousands more people by first priming the pump with fake people to make the internet react and respond to give me more attention. That's the way a lot of these, the content that you wouldn't think has a big audience base. Yeah. How they get all this attention is because they're spending the money to be able to astroturf the fact that, you know, people are interested in what they have to say. And then the internet just does its thing and lets more people through the door.
So if I want to be an online influencer and I want you to sponsor me and give me money on my channel or to show my content, I just find a way to make it look like there are tons of viewers and say, oh, look at all these.
That's exactly right. And that, like I said, it benefits the producer if you can make it low cost. So and let me warn all the moms, because they target the shit out of moms for the engineering side. Before the bot system was really solid, do you know how they accomplished the fake viewers on social media?
No.
It was moms. Here's what they would do. Okay, so there was these coupon, I'm going to call it coupon. Okay, so what you would do if you're at home, hey, for 5 hours a day, all you have to do is get paid to watch YouTube videos, right?
Oh yeah.
And then what they would do is they would have you run this little thing on your browser. You have to go to a YouTube video, watch at least 61 seconds of that video, and move on to the next one. Every time you watch the video, they'd give you a coupon. And that coupon can then be traded in for products. And what was it? Do you remember the mills when they used to pay people in mill money?
No.
Okay. So there
mill money?
Mill money. So I forget what the word is, but if you worked in the mill, instead of paying you in dollars, they paid you in these tokens that then you would use to buy food from their general store, and it would be inflated value, whatever. It made so that the mill they would make money no matter what, right? You couldn't go to the store and spend your pay. You had to buy it from the mill that hired you.
Like getting in-store credit for
It's exactly right. So all these moms were getting in-store credit for products to watch YouTube videos. Now they would turn around and sell to me. I'd pay, $1,000 to get, 1,000 subscribers. And then all they do is they take a portion of the money that I gave them for the service. They would turn around and buy token, meaningless, like Chuck E. Cheese types of gifts. Stay-at-home moms would watch YouTube videos and subscribe to channels, and then they would get these crappy gifts sent to them, and they felt like they were.
Oh, I know a couple people that are doing something similar with gambling apps. A couple people I know are trying to make money on the side by filling out these cards. I don't even remember what they're supposed to say. It's like, it's your name and address and something. It's like a paragraph long. You can't even type it. You have to handwrite each individual card, mail it into this casino company, In turn, you get free plays on this gambling app, and then you could win like gift cards.
All of those
things.
schemes are cog in the wheel. You're the product of what you're doing is being sold to somebody else, and a lot of it's that astroturfing.
Yeah.
So they're exposed.
I had a question. What was it? Talking about getting more viewers. These aren't real. Finding sponsors, fake viewers. Oh my God, what was my question?
The next show we were going to do, we're going to AstroTurf one. I'm going to pay that $20 and I'm going to get a bunch of bots to log in. And I want to see how many we get. I'm going to freaking do it tomorrow.
I remember the question.
Yeah.
Is that why, or I always thought it was just because I'm not cool enough. Is that why you could see these online influencers that supposedly have millions of followers, but I could ask like a lot of people and nobody's heard of them? Like, who is so-and-so? I don't know. They got like 3 point something million followers. And I'm like, if there was a person on TV or in a movie or whatever in a band and they were that big, I would have heard of them. How could I have not have heard of an internet person that has all this traction?
So if you do it authentically, then it takes a decade to get there. If you can AstroTurf in the beginning, then you get there quicker. Like I have no doubt that if Metallica came to town, that they would sell out the show and they would actually take people and not allow them to give tickets away to family and friends because the demand is so high for Metallica that they would sell it out legitimately. Where if you had dollar store Metallica, you'd have to buy a lot of those seats in order to sell it out. So could an influencer put the afterburners on and get to that level eventually by AstroTurfing in the beginning and ascending later on? Sure. And I'm sure that happens sometimes, but it's not the majority of them. That's what I'm saying. Like a majority of what you see, whether or not it's people show up at political rallies that are only there because, hey, are you a single mom? Why don't you go to a rally? We'll give you $500. It's those people there. And so it's not authentic. It's not real. And so you take like the crisis actors things. It's just an extension of that. Instead of going to the public, you take professional people who cause problems. And somebody wants problems caused. You go to causeproblems.com and you buy yourself a crisis actor. The guy gets paid $1,000. He shows up. He takes out a brick, throws it through a window. Done deal. Goes home, causes another crisis because that's his function. That's his job.
I can't even imagine now with the internet and using the internet, how easy that would be now. I mean, I even saw, they did it as a joke. It was obviously fake. But I saw a girl post a reel and they were talking about the riots in LA and all that stuff. And it looked like she had a black eye and a gash on her nose and some dried blood on her face. And she's like, it's just insane out here. It's violent. It's blah, blah, blah. And then she went like this with her hand and you saw it was all a filter. That all the gash and everything, her face was fine. And there was a filter on her. And I'm like, how easy would it be to fake anything to push a narrative? And so it's like, is everything on the internet fake? Probably not.
Not at all. But a majority is fake. And a rare exception is actually the authentic that nobody's messed with, nobody's doctored up. And I challenge anybody who doesn't believe in conspiracy theories. Give me an illusion, your favorite one, and let's talk about if it's real or not. And not using the extremes, but using, the majority. And I will prove almost every illusion. You can take money, currency, total illusion. You can take democracy, total illusion. Like there isn't anything you can put in front of me that doesn't take a fair amount of belief and faith in, right? In order to be real. Everything else is not as real as you think it is.
Well, I thought the idea of like Bitcoin and all that was insane the first time I heard it. I did not understand when people are trying to talk to me about like Bitcoin and whatever the heck else. What's it called? Like
Ethereum?
No, like the other word where you use these, I don't know, make believe non-tangible items online as money. And I could not wrap my head around it. And I was like, but it's different. I was like, but it's not money and you don't actually see it. But you get things for it. And they're like, oh yeah, it's just value. It's just a name for value. Basically, I have a pen here and I could buy a house with this. And you're like, what? Well, if the value of this pen is great enough and you want it bad enough, and eventually it gets to the point of being worth so much money, then I bought a house with a pen. And I'm just like, wow.
You could.
Cryptocurrency. Thank
Yeah.
you, Patricia. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, but Bitcoin is no more of an illusion than a US dollar is.
It's just a piece of paper.
It's if two people have full faith that what they're doing has value and they trade one another for something else of value, that's what currency is. It could be a shell, it could be a coin, it could be a digital token. Like all of it's the same to me.
I saw an article recently that said, I think they said Trump is getting rid of the penny next year. Have you heard of that?
Oh, the penny is so stupid. So stupid.
But it used to be meaningful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it used to be, get all kinds of things with pennies, collect pennies, find a penny on the ground. Oh, you can use that for something. And now everyone's like, I don't need my penny. Have a penny, leave a penny, take a penny, whatever. Like who can, I don't, it'd be, people almost take them out of their pocket and be like, throw this away.
Yeah, that's what happens when you inflate a currency is that pennies become useless and now nickels are old pennies. Do you see that they had what?
Oh, I just had an epiphany. I did, yeah.
So nickel is now a penny. So you can even change the name.
Yeah, and then
once you inflate it again, then the nickel will disappear, and your dime will become your penny. And we'll have to create a new higher denomination one, and it's all relative. It's all the same.
Yeah.
They minted $1 trillion coin, and I don't want to get into it. We'll get into that tomorrow because it's a conspiracy theory day. But it's interesting. When I was a kid, we used to play this board game, and it instead of dollars, I think it was some kind of was it yen? Yeah, yen. It was a Shogun, maybe. Anyway, they use yen, and so it almost had properties like we had Boardwalk or whatever that was $400. And in this game, things cost like 40 million yen. But then what you got, I had a relationship between what a million meant. And when somebody's buying a loaf of bread for 4 million yen, I was like, what happened there? Like, why don't they just cut some of the zeros off and make it 400 or 4 like it is over here? And obviously older cultures inflated to probably at one point there was a 1 yen or won or whatever it is was equal to a fish, right? And through inflation, now it took more of those yen to be able to equal a fish because of terrible money policy.
Yeah, I used to wonder why we always have to have like money conversion in different countries. Like, why can't we all just get on the same page with what's what? But
some countries are better than other of not letting inflation happen.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. I never really thought about why that was.
But the crazy part is that the reason the penny's going away is it costs more to manufacture a penny than a penny. So it costs you to make money more than the money is valued at. You can't do that.
Yeah. We got a bunch of comments.
Okay.
I feel like we gotta go up.
Okay.
Okay. We went too far up. Go down.
Make up your mind.
Go down.
Let's move the couch. Move it over there. No. Let's move it over there.
Pivot down. You gotta go down. Shauna has something, I think. Oh, Dennis has an example of a crisis actor. Dennis, just let us know what that link is. Shauna, a family member that was on one of the planes went into Trade Center. Saying it didn't happen is disrespectful. Not saying it didn't happen. We're talking about circumstances surrounding it.
Yeah, making certain things, urging, like Nancy Pelosi didn't make January 6th happen. Nancy Pelosi nudged something and made it more likely to happen. So if somebody wanted something to happen, they can do some things ahead of it to make it, grease the pathway to making something more likely to happen.
Same with you'll hear people say, oh, you don't talk about crisis actors in this very tragic situation that people were unalived or whatever you have to say on the internet now. Not saying that didn't happen, but is it possible some of the details were staged? Like when you talk about the moon landing, did that actually happen? Maybe, but are the details are what we're seeing on TV?
And would it change anything? So my theory is that it would be terribly difficult to get really high quality video in the circumstances on the moon. So let's just say they went there and the technology was good to walk around and do all that stuff, But then they just came back and they made a demo reel of everything that they did. They constructed the optics, made it so that it was easily filmed, right?
Mhm.
And you showed it to you. They didn't have to put this is a recreation like they used to do on Unsolved Mysteries. Like they weren't actually seeing the thing. But what does it change? They gave you a replicated deal. Might have taken some liberties. Maybe some of the stuff didn't happen exactly. Maybe they dressed it up. Was it Kubrick who was famous at that time for creating fantastical 2001 Space Odyssey, all that kind of stuff. So he might have been involved. So it's very likely that it's very unlikely to me that they did it, popped out of the capsule. Like you watch YouTube videos right now of people and they have to walk along, set up the camera and then walk, right?
I just saw somebody, those videos of people like, get ready with me, or like, I know people that will just film themselves just getting ready in the morning. And I'm like, what kind of narcissism is that? But it shows them waking up in the morning in their bed, getting out of bed. And it's like, you set the camera up.
Yes.
And then you got in bed.
And pretended to wake up a second time. But it doesn't matter. They've captured the likelihood that happened, right? They did wake up, but I was sleeping, so I couldn't turn my camera on.
Yeah.
I watched,
this is what I would do.
Exactly. And it's no different. It doesn't spoil the fact that, are you questioning whether or not she woke up at all? Right?
Yeah.
So it did happen. I just didn't see the actual time it happened. I just had a demonstration of it happening.
Yeah.
Which is good for me. And I watched this survivalist guy, and this has got to be hard for him because he'll scale up a mountain, but he'll capture camera footage of him going up the mountain. So his ass had to climb the thing, set up the camera, climb back down, do it again. So this guy hikes twice or at least 3 times every time he gives you footage. Sometimes it's just him holding the camera, which is the lazy way of doing it.
Yeah.
But when he has him walking up to it, it's like, that's the second time you walked that trail. Cause I know you had to put the camera there in the first place.
Yeah. And so many things, I think people will just believe it because they saw it. And it's like, think about how you're seeing this.
Mm-hmm.
How were you able to see that? Somebody set this up and gave you this line of view, and you don't even know what happened before it. You don't know what's happening around it.
So does it disturb you that after knowing that, do you want to buy the illusion of you capturing the first wake up for your influencer? Or now does it kill it for you that wasn't real when I watched it? Like if nobody told you about it, you wouldn't care one way or the other, right?
I guess, yeah.
You would have accepted it as what was being presented to you, and you wouldn't have any qualms. And even after the fact, you'd feel a little hoodwinked, you're a little tricked, right?
A little bothered by it.
Mm-hmm.
What is Dennis talking about? Birds aren't real?
Yeah, birds are definitely not real.
What? Okay, let's talk about that.
Okay.
How are birds not real?
So
birds are definitely not real.
You ever see drones in the sky?
Yeah.
Okay, so birds are little observers, right? They relay information back to the mothership.
Yeah.
They tell our overlords what we're doing because we would accept a bird as just a part of nature. So there's a couple of real birds out there. In case we catch one, we can actually see that, oh, this is a biological thing.
Yeah, I've accidentally killed one.
Yeah, so that was a real one. There are very few of them. Most of the birds that you see that are flying around, they're just drones that are checking out what you're up to, making sure you're building codes, you're not breaking any HOA.
They have like little cameras in their eyes,
little cameras beaming stuff down to their operator. If you look around, there's usually somebody stationed in a van or a truck that's just sitting on the road. You can't quite figure out what they're doing. They're receiving the video footage that's coming in there. So look around a little bit for that guy.
Okay. I was on my way here this morning, and on Springfield Road, there's a massive construction crew like there is everywhere else. And this is so interesting. We're talking about this because as I'm passing this construction, I see this black thing just go straight down to the ground from a wire. And it was the weirdest, and it was a bird. And I'm like, that's a really weird way for a bird to move. Like it literally stuck out to me that I looked at it because normally a bird is flying and this just went and then walked along the ground, and it was a cool looking bird and it had colors on it, and it very much stuck out to me.
New model testing out. Absolutely.
And the construction guys are running that thing.
Yeah. What a proper cover right? You think they're just fixing the roads. They're
there's construction everywhere. There's lots of road work. It's not weird to have these guys around.
Not at all. Proper cover. That's a good plan, actually. So most birds are just little observers. So Dennis, we can't tell many people about that. So let's keep that a little bit more on the DL. I don't know why you were so.
You guys own a bunch of bird drones, don't you?
Listen, I cannot confirm nor deny. Joseph says, I feel left out. I've been at rallies since the early 70s and never got paid.
Yeah, you need to get on that.
I know. Jeez.
You're just working for free.
Will the phrase penny for your thoughts go away? Yes, because future generations won't even know what a freaking... Well, I take that back. A shilling, right, is still part of our lexicon. And
I mean, there's a lot of figures of speech that came from somewhere.
I don't know what a penny is. Oh, think about how valuable pennies are going to be in the future. But there are a lot of them out there. And people just had the same thought that I did.
Penny for your thoughts. Even the word shit, store high in transit. It was a thing. You know about that?
No.
You never heard of it? Yes, you've heard about that. The word shit, it's store high in transit.
I don't buy it. I got to Snopes the crap out of that.
Oh my God. I know something Joe Danyi didn't know. Store high in transit.
No way.
Yes.
Nope.
Ship high in transit. Okay. Ship high in transit because it was being shipped.
There is a popular myth that stands for ship high in transit, but this is false. The word shit has a long history and not derived from that phrase.
Also, it was a conspiracy theory. Ship high in transit.
This is false.
Really? Okay, then Google the F word. Because that's supposed to be fornicate under the king or something.
What? What would you say?
Fornicate under.
No way. These are not real acronyms. You've been hoodwinked.
Google the F word.
No, most of these things have sort of like words that predated them, and they became shortened versions of those things. So there's actual etymology about origins of words, and it is not acronyms. Acronyms are
for unlawful carnal knowledge, fornication under consent of the king. I knew it was something like that.
While it's a common misconception, it is not an acronym. These popular myths suggest that acronyms are like these phrases. That's 2 for 2.
But one day somebody's going to say, penny for your thoughts? What does that mean? Oh, we used to have currency called a penny, and then that'll be real. How does penny for your thoughts come about?
And I got to fill this in because you've been duped. There it is right there. It's a Dutch dialect for Fokkelen.
Fokkelen.
And so it says in the 16th century, a Germanic origin dialect Fokka and Dutch word for Fokkelen, possibly from Indo-European root meaning to strike, shared by Latin pugnus, fist. So, but we're I'm not going to say so.
What?
Moving on.
Where the heck did for Pete's sake come from? No, not even Pete's sake. Pete's sake and for crying out loud. What does that mean? I know what we use it as, but for crying out loud to me is like, what kind of silly origin is that? Oh, for crying out loud.
Originating in the United States in the 1920s as a softened alternative for the more offensive "for Christ's sake" is used as an exclamation, frustration, impatience. Thomas Dorian is credited with helping to popularize the idiom.
So how do you go from the Christ's sake one to crying out loud? What is crying out loud?
You know what? Go down that rabbit hole and you will find the origin of why the substitution happened, right? Something innocuous and, not a bad thing. I want to say the F word, but let me create a substitution since fuck, I'm going to say fudge, right? Fudge, right? And then they're going to be like, why did you pick fudge? Only because it's a word that's not going to make anybody mad. It's the most innocuous word you can come up with. And now that's me saying fuck.
Yeah, I have a cousin who said when his kids were little, he would go, cheese and rice.
Exactly. Somebody's going to in the future is going to be like, why'd they come up with cheese and rice?
What's wrong with cheese and rice?
People are silly like that. That's why. I am a big believer in Occam's razor makes life much simpler.
What is that?
Explore the razors, and these are sort of philosophical discussions and their fallacies based on the tendencies of human beings to sort ourselves and categorize ourselves. There's about, I don't know, I know about 15 or 20 of them. They're super interesting because people study these phenomenons, right? And why people react in a certain way, and they're given a name. Let me give you the list of razors.
What's a razor? I'm still confused. Not razor blades. I'm
so
assuming.
here's a couple of the most popular ones, and I'll just pick one.
Hanlon's razor, Hitchens razor, Hume's
Hitchens.
razor.
We'll do Hitchens. Where'd you see that?
Right below the one you're on.
Hitchens razor. All right. We'll use Occam's. It's
what?
okay. Philosophical
Occam's
razors are principles or rules of thumb that can be applied in situations to help solve a problem or question. They're called razors because they're meant to shave off unlikely explanations. The ideas behind these razors existed long before they were named, but the names below help popularize them. Hitchens razor, what can be asserted without evidence can also be dismissed without evidence. So rules of philosophy,
yeah.
right? And there's a ton of them, and they're really interesting. They're well thought out. I disagree with some of them.
So that one is, if something is discussed, there needs to be proof or else it can be dismissed.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're just philosophical ideas.
Philosophical principles.
Principles.
Yes. To help orient yourself and
live
making good debate, making good argumentation, describing things, and coming with solutions and proof. So it's a good exploration of
kind of like how you know something's a moot point is you don't have
right. You have a
anywhere to
rule
go
set
with
that
it.
you follow, and then you come to the conclusion whether something is or not. So
Interesting.
let's see.
I've never
As
heard
for the
that
birds,
term.
they recharge by sitting on electrical lines. See, that's interesting. Wireless charging.
Yes! That makes sense.
Because it's a dumb perch, right? If they didn't need to recharge, why don't they get electrocuted, Mom? They're not. They are being electrified by sitting on the lines.
They're on their charging ports.
They're on their charging
because
ports.
they're fake drones.
Yep, that's why we've strung all of these cables for all of our
Oh my
observer
God.
bird drones. I'm telling you.
Oh my God, I've never looked at a bird the same way again.
These
and
are
then why is it when I killed the one on accident, I killed the one real one?
That's a good question. I don't know if they can fabricate, maybe make it seem like put a little blood pack in there so that when they make impact, they squish, because you don't really dissect them once you're there.
I did. I ran it over with my car.
Next time you kill one, dissect it and see if you can find the electrical components that are inside. And then you'll know if you killed a real, because you wouldn't feel bad if you killed a drone, right?
Right.
Right. So do it for the sake
I
of.
felt bad because I thought I killed a baby bird.
Right. May not have been. So take that off of you.
Okay.
All right. Feel better about it.
I feel better.
These are kind of like the Mandela effect. Ooh.
We did a whole podcast on that, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Last year, maybe.
Mhm.
I have a neighbor friend that is all about the Mandela effect, but maybe you should explain what that is.
Okay. So it's something that is widely accepted to be true. And if asked about it, like, does the Monopoly guy have a monocle? Right? Majority of the people would say, well, yes, he does, until you go to a Monopoly board and see that the Monopoly guy never had a monocle. Why does everybody believe
He
that?
doesn't?
He does not. That is the Mandela effect.
That everybody believes something, it's widely known,
Yes.
but then you realize it's not actually known
Yes.
because it's not true. And I think the Mandela effect is people believe Nelson Mandela died, in a certain year or way, and that's actually not true.
Okay, here's some popular ones. The Bernstein Bears. Many people remember the children's book as the Bernstein Bears instead of the correct Berenstain Bears. Mirror, mirror on the wall. In the movie Snow White, the line is actually magic mirror on the wall.
No, it is not.
The Monopoly Man's monocle. We did that one. Looney Tunes. The cartoon is actually Looney Tunes, not Looney Tunes. Wait, what's the difference?
L-O-O.
Oh, it's tunes, Tunes instead of Toon.
Tunes as in music tunes, not
Music
tunes as in a
tune.
cartoon.
Jiffy Peanut Butter. The peanut butter was actually named Jif, not Jiffy. Star Wars lines. The famous line from Star Wars is Luke,
Sex in the
I
City?
am your father, not Luke, I am your father.
Oh, people think it's Sex in the City?
Yeah.
No, it's Sex and the City.
Okay.
Sex in the
But
City.
if you polled a majority of people, one of my favorite ones, and I say this all the time, this was from Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
What's the
census taker once tried to test me?
what?
Or you? Oh, I thought that's what you were going.
No,
with.
they
Silence of the Lambs.
Hello, Clarice, or something like. There was one line in there that never existed, but we refer to it as it's an actual line in the movie. It happens all the time.
He does say hello, Clarice, does he not? Yes, he does. Let's Google that one because now I gotta know. It's either got to be the Clarice or a census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with a can of fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Let's see. Revolves around the misremembering line, hello, Clarice, from Hannibal Lecter, which is actually good evening, Clarice.
Shut up. He says good evening, Clarice.
Good evening, Clarice.
And he never says hello, Clarice.
Hello, Clarice. But we all say it because it would be
we all think it's hello, Clarice. So yeah, so what's the Mandela one then? Everybody thought Nelson Mandela died in a totally different year than he actually did. And it's like widely believed. The Mandela effect. Things we all think actually happened but did not.
Okay. The term originated from the false memory that many people believe Nelson Mandela had died in prison in the 1980s, when in reality he was released in 1990 and died in 2013.
2013.
Yes.
Yeah, I would guess most people think he died before that.
Yeah. Let's see. Fruit of the Loom had a cornucopia on its label, but now it doesn't. So that may be that when you look at it now, it looks like the Mandela effect. So there's some people would argue with me about the Monopoly, and they go back and try to find an iteration from the early releases of the game,
Like
and it still doesn't.
Changed.
But still, it doesn't have the monocle. But everybody believes that it does.
He never had a monocle.
Yeah. So our relationship with the things that we embellish and change, like, it's not surprising when we get into serious topics that we do the exact same thing. The game of telephone becomes a good illustration of how we tack on things when there's unknowns. And with UFOs and with Sasquatch and whatever, it's a bunch of unknowns. So what do people do? They take credible, believable things and they Mandela effect, and they use people to propagate things that could be true, but might not be true.
Do you know, I have started to doubt or question my own memories.
Mm-hmm.
Things that, like, a story of something that happened that I have told years and years and years again. And now I'm like, did that actually happen? Did I somehow make that up, or am I remembering wrong? Sorry, I just got something in my eye. And I could be right. And it could be, totally just a story that happened that I told for years and years. But now, like, I just told someone something the other day that I remember hearing, and I've told people this before, and I went, I no longer know if that actually happened.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I question that? Why would I question that?
You should question that. You should, because from our perceptions and what we register and put away, most of the time has been altered by that state of consciousness that wants it to be remembered a certain way. Yeah. Just like if you go back and watch an old movie, in your head what it was, and when you watch it again, like, I saw this in the moment and I remember being way better. Or even like in dreams, like you connect with the dream, but you explain the dream. It was the dumbest shit that you've ever come up with.
Or like being a kid before I knew how to read, just looking at a storybook with pictures and kind of coming up with what the story's about. But then years later you read it and you're like, oh, that's not what the story was about.
Right. We make some additions.
Like there's, and I've told you this before, I know, there's a popular song. I call it my anxiety song, the Starship, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. I like the song. It's a good song. For some reason, when I hear it, I have an instant memory of feeling uneasy and worried. And for years, I have tried to figure out why this song does this to me. And I'm like, am I suppressing a memory? Is it something that I put out of my mind, but my body remembers it? And then I just come to the idea that at the time that song was popular, I was a little kid. I was an anxious little kid. And I know that. School made me anxious. Lots of things made me anxious. I worried all the time. So I just kind of came to the conclusion of it was popular at a time in my life that I was anxious all the time. That's got to be it.
Yeah.
But then why no other songs? There's lots of songs popular from that
try
area.
to do it. Try to create another emotionally charged song and repeat it over and over and see if in the future that it has the same deal. I bet you can do it. Self-delusion, self-hypnosis,
Yeah.
all of that stuff is possible. And once you do that and know that it's under control of your own brain, you will start to question how many other times you created a magic trick in your own head.
Yeah. Have you ever had an instance where maybe all your family or all your friends remember something that happened that you have no memory of?
Yeah,
I have that too.
for sure.
And I'm like,
and remember,
oh, don't you remember we were all there?
You are making decisions every day with a brain that is so wet noodly, right? And so capable of delusion and fabrication, but yet you are predicating today's decisions as if those things were true and factual.
Yeah.
Is it the aliens make fun of us? And I just want to share this with you.
Aliens make
fun of us because they are ahead of us. Spoiler, I'm sorry for those of you who might think that they're cavemen or, technologically inferior to us, but they make fun of us because they have fixed this. And the problem is they look to us because we're more fun than they are, right? We have, but the fun is all based on the illusions that we create. So they thought it would be better to get rid of the illusions and just deal in objective fact. But then all of their joy and all of their, the things that they loved are gone now. So they use us as toys, right? They live vicariously through us. They need the birds that are watching us to see what we're doing. They pick certain ones of us and they have fun and let us be the analog that has all the repercussions from having that fun so they don't have to. So we're just little toy exchanges for the aliens.
We're in the Matrix.
Yeah,
and
they do make fun of us though for being so like entropic, so chaotic, and they don't want anything to do with the chaos, right? But they like to enjoy it through us.
We are their reality television show.
That's exactly right. Yep. And there's only one rule of human beings, right? Don't let them know that they are the Truman.
It's a Truman show.
Do not let them know they're Truman. That's it.
Or else you're
gone.
And then you're another conspiracy theory.
That's it. Well,
I saw behind this sheet. I saw behind this veil.
Yes.
Nope. You're a crazy person, mental institution.
That's exactly right. And then you're discredited because you can't get let the truth out. It's believable. It's, probable maybe. And I have the evidence, but they would, if they knew I was saying this right now, I looked around, there's no birds out there. There's no birds out there. So I know they're not aware. What, you see one?
There's two birds just flew by.
Right. We'll reserve what I'm about to say for next show. Julie says, Joe, would you rather be an alien? I am getting super close to my alien ship. They are rebuilding me into their image.
You don't sound crazy at all.
No, not at all. Ed McMahon never did the Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yes, he did. Google it. Yes, he did. Listen, if that one's not real, I trust nothing. Ed McMahon and the Publishers Clearinghouse.
Was not part of Publishing Clearinghouse. He was a spokesman for American Family Publishers, a competitor with Publishers Clearinghouse. In my brain,
nothing is real.
In my brain, I can still picture him delivering the winnings from Publishers Clearinghouse. In my brain.
He did deliver winnings,
but for
in
a different
the same
company.
fashion. It was just not Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yeah, it was a different company.
Everything I've ever
done. But
if
you were put on the spot and said, for $1 million, answer this question: was Ed McMahon the spokesperson for Publishers Clearinghouse? You wouldn't think one second, and you would say, "Give me my money."
Yes.
And have Ed deliver it. I'm certain about it.
Do you believe? How about all the theories with music, like the Beatles is popular, where people believe that was it Paul McCartney? They think died. Was it Paul, Ringo, John? One of them. Somebody can type in and correct this. One of them they believe actually died many years ago in a car crash. They found a lookalike, trained him to be just like that Beatles member, feel like it was Paul, and joined the Beatles under a facade that this was the real Paul McCartney or whoever it was. And then they started making albums where, like, the end of this song, you hear a voice in the background that says Paul is dead. The Abbey Road cover had them walking, and the one guy is dressed like the corpse and one guy is dressed like a funeral. What's it called? The guy who runs a funeral. Anywho, whatever that is. Yeah, Joseph says it was Paul. And then they sort of play into this theory that I think they kept it going because it was a fun sort of urban legend. Have you ever followed any of that?
A bunch of them. And okay, so let's just say that did happen. You build a brand up that's worth billions of dollars and one person dies, and you got to decide whether or not you're going to keep the brand going by stifling the news about somebody dying and put a lookalike there to perform so you can keep the brand alive. There would be an incentive to pull something like that off. If I did that, I would not leave clues that what I've done, right? Now, it's marketing on the other side. Somebody didn't die, but you want to bring new attention to your album, so you pretend like somebody died and then hide clues to make it interesting.
Yeah, because they definitely played it up.
Either has some math that says possible.
Or do you think they played it up, or do you think we read into it with our own bias when really the Abbey Road album cover did not? It wasn't intended to look like that, or do you think it was?
It's fun. That's what makes conspiracy theories fun. That's why we line up Pink Floyd with Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah.
And there's commentary if you do it at a certain deal that it talks about what's going on in the movie. Somebody got super high and they just happened to be watching Wizard of Oz, blown out of their mind, and they saw mentioned, and then they lined it up, and it's probably coincidental. But on the other side of that,
hanging in the background of Wizard of Oz,
oh, that's a good one. And then on the other side, like, what would it take to just record a song and make it go along with some movie or whatever, and then plant the seed that that's the case, sell more albums because that gets planted. I mean, both are possible.
I think it's Red Hot Chili Peppers. Roller Coaster. Have you heard that? What they say? Mm-hmm. So, that song, Roller Coaster. And there's an urban legend that when you listen to that song, during one part in the very background, you hear a scream. And the band was supposedly, like, I think the story is they were shooting a music video while recording that song at an amusement park, and somebody fell to their death out of a roller coaster, and you hear them scream. Most likely not true, but creepy. Interesting, creepy. Mm-hmm. Someone's going to go buy an album, replay that song, see if they hear it.
People who produce entertainment that rely on the public to stay interested in something, this is astroturfing as well. They might come across it like, for instance, there was a show about where there was a cardboard cutout in the window, and they said it was a ghost, and everybody went out and bought this video and showed their friends to see the ghost in there, right? Yeah. Well, you don't know if it was on purpose just to create that new attention for that movie long after it was produced and already on VHS, right? Or it was just a happy accident where it just, like the amusement park thing, and they got free attention. But if you're dependent on that, if you make more money because something like that happens, what stops the next generation from making that happen so they can get the benefits of that same phenomenon?
Wasn't it believed? Didn't people, when Blair Witch Project came out, wasn't there some marketing there that people thought that was real footage?
Yeah.
I remember
it's
that.
Good marketing.
It was Paul, and played the record backward. And if you played a certain song backward, it said Paul is dead, which I actually, I think my parents had the record. And now I can't remember if it's Paul is dead or if the voice says I killed Paul, I think is what it sounds like. It's in like a slow motion kind of voice. But it's one of those. I remember when I was a teenager, maybe. I can't remember where this was. Camel, maybe? Somewhere around here. It hit the town. Word spread that a statue's eyes were glowing. Do you remember that? Mm-mm. I don't know what year this would have been. I might have been maybe 16, if that. And there was a local church I don't know if it was camel or what it was. This was so long. Here's another example of, did I make this up? Is this a memory I made up in my head, or did this act? I'm pretty certain this happened. The news came and covered it because people from all these local towns were going to this church at night to see. I don't think it was a statue of Mary. I think it was something else. And maybe somebody can write in and validate this. Everybody believed the eyes were glowing, the statue on this church. And a ton of people came to see it, and I went to see it. And I'm pretty sure it was like a street light. There was a street light somewhere that sort of shined on it, and because of the shadows of it, it didn't hit parts of the statue, but it did kind of shine across here. I don't even remember. I don't even remember what the logical explanation was, but people got real bought into it real fast. And
what about that statue in Rome that started weeping? Do you remember that?
Sounds familiar, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah, that they wanted to certify that as a miracle.
Weeping statue. Claimed to have shed tears or to be weeping supernatural means. Appear to be blood, oil, and scented liquids have all been reported. Creepy.
Authorities of the Catholic Church have been very careful in their approach to treatment of weeping statues and generally set high barriers for acceptance. For instance, when a statue of popular Padre Pio whatever in Sicily was found to have tears of blood one day in 2002, church officials quickly ordered tests that showed the blood belonged to a woman and then dismissed the case as a hoax. Skeptics point to the fact that making a fake weeping statue is relatively easy. Skeptics have provided examples of weeping statues and have been obvious hoaxes. So all I got to do is take a little bit of reflective paint, put it on the eyeballs of a statue, wait for somebody to come along with a flashlight, and now all of a sudden they glow and they're like,
yeah. Especially because it was like high up too. So you're kind of like, is it? And obviously, like, I saw it and was like, what are you talking about? They're not glowing. And if anything, maybe they're slightly illuminated by that street light over there. But like, and that was before the internet, I think, or at least the internet was new. I can't even imagine now, like, the things that people run wild with. And now, again, like I said, did I dream that? Did I make that up? I'll have to ask my friends. Like, did we go to a church and look at a statue?
You are probably in your seventh lifetime of your consciousness, and you're echoing some of your other,
I bet you we could Google it and find a news article. Youngstown, Ohio. Yeah, statue, church's statue, glowing eyes. Because I swear, even the news was like, all these people keep coming here thinking that they're seeing this. 2003, statue of Virgin Mary. Is that it?
Yeah, there it is. A statue of
Campbell, Ohio. Statue of the Virgin Mary Roman Catholic Church in Youngstown suburb attracted hundreds of onlookers at all hours because the eyes and a heart appeared to glow. Now I remember too, the heart too. They think it was kind of glittery glowing. He said a gold leaf was put on the statue's eyes, heart, and halo in the 1970s. So it was some gold metallic paint or something. I didn't dream this. It was a real memory. Whew.
But you know what? Aliens. Honestly, I think all of this stuff, we're super attracted to it, and they should do more of it. Like if a church wants to get more people in their pews, make something weep, put some oil on there, make something light on fire. Like I'm wondering if today actual miracles happen, if the church would be.
Oh gosh, how jaded we all would be.
Right, and not believing it.
Like everybody, and you even have people who are atheists or non-believers or whatever say, well, I need proof. Like what level of proof would we need nowadays? Knowing about conspiracy theories, knowing about fake things, knowing about even disproven stuff like that. Nobody was nefarious in that. Everybody just happened to notice some shiny paint that nobody knew was there. There was just a logical explanation. So how much proof would we need to the existence of something so
crazy? All right, let me hit
that.
You with this.
Okay.
So first off, Jesus returns and he comes back. All right. So he's here now. How does he interface with the world? Is he internet where he's saying, I am Jesus and I have returned, right? Does he stand in a parking lot?
Go Facebook Live
right?
and tell everyone?
Does he go in a parking lot, put his arms out and say, I am Jesus and I have returned? Does he go to politicians? Does he go to a church? Like, what's his method to let everybody know he's back?
I've been thinking about this because my husband and I recently started watching The Chosen. And in my brain, sometimes my first thought is, how quickly and easily people just believed this man. You know, he's like, I am the Messiah. And at first they're like, okay, whatever, crazy person. And then he tells them about something they did. And all of a sudden, like instantly they believe it. They trust it. Oh my God, this is real. Now, back in the day, maybe they could be easily fooled because that would be a crazy thing for someone to believe. But yeah, like how could somebody in this day and age just come around and start saying, I am Jesus, I have returned, I am he, I am whatever. And we like, there's nothing you could say.
But then he'd be like, all right, well, nobody
or...
believes me. So I've got to do a miracle or a trick and show them that I have all the powers of God in order for them to believe me. And then it's,
oh, you're just your sleight of hand.
Yeah, like here's some water, here's some wine. Oh, wine. And they're like, I saw a dude do that on YouTube yesterday, dude. You got to up your game a little bit. What would he have to do to prove to you that he was the Messiah?
I mean, you couldn't even tell me about myself because, you could have Googled that. You know, like anybody that can Google a name can tell you about yourself. Anybody that says, oh, well, I remember as a kid, did you ever go to the haunted high school in Petersburg?
No.
Oh, so it was, they took an old high school in Petersburg and they made it the haunted high school at Halloween time. And it was like a scary haunted house. And there was a woman there that would do palm readings and she was psychic. And she told me, you're going to have an accident. And I was like, what? And she's like, no, it doesn't necessarily mean a bad accident. It could be you lose something. It could be something minor. And I'm a teenager and I get home that night and I go to run up to my bedroom and I tripped on the stairs and I went, the accident. That could be anything, like how specific does somebody have to be before you believe them?
All right. So, and sorry for the blasphemy, but what if Jesus is already here and he's like, F these people, they don't believe me.
Yeah.
Right. They think he might actually been committed and he might be in a loony bin somewhere.
Because we thought he was nuts.
We don't believe him, and he can't prove it because all of his, God powers aren't impressive enough to bring people on board.
And if he starts reciting scripture, everybody and their brother has a Bible.
I've got the Bible
and can
app.
do that.
Right.
Speaking of which, another conspiracy theory I came across was the Antichrist. Apocalyptic prophecies, particular Christian claims about the end times have inspired a range of conspiracy theories. Many of these cite the Antichrist, a leader who will supposedly create an oppressive world empire. And there's been countless figures over history that people have said are the Antichrist. And some of them include people like in ancient history. Barack Obama is on this list.
Okay.
French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. Adolf Hitler.
Okay.
And then, of course, you just come to modern times and someone might say it about Trump and whoever.
Okay.
Do you think the Antichrist is a real thing that could come just like Christ?
Sure. Why not?
Do you think maybe they've been here?
You have to have the opposing. So if you have ultimate good, you have to have ultimate evil. You have to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I can't imagine it would be obvious. Like some people might hear Adolf Hitler and not be surprised. Some people might hear Barack Obama and be like, what? He's not the Antichrist. Well, would the Antichrist be obvious or not?
Well, Antichrist would be a trickster. He would actually make you think he was pretty damn good, right?
Yes. So now then, can we believe the good and virtuous historical figures?
What if they were all fabrications? All illusions?
We're never like, what kind of miracle, what kind of strange sign of power would anybody believe is a
you
thing?
Shouldn't. That is my whole point is that it's all an illusion. It's all marketing and everything you believe is probably fiction. And in today's age, you get both. So before news traveled slower, but it was easier to conceal things because it was harder to out you because there was no internet, there was no quick communication. So you could really keep things on the DL, right? But now we have fast internet. So fast communication using the internet, using cell phones and whatever. So you get a plethora of information, harder to conceal it, but easy to fabricate things, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can get things to spread in like 29 seconds. It was harder to fake things when communication was slow because it would take so much effort and time in order for them to take hold. Now you can get bad news to be believable in 30 seconds without hardly even trying.
And you can fake proof. How many times do you think you know something because, well, I watched the video, I watched it happen, and it's all AI?
That's exactly right.
Nobody in it was real. Have you seen? I've been seeing some reels now of it looks like a reporter or like a newscaster on scene for something, and it's like, I'm so and so, and I'm not real. And it looks like a person in front of an event that is happening, but then they'll make something crazy like a kraken come out of the water or something. And the person talking says, and I'm not real. I'm not actually here. Mm-hmm. And it's all AI. So, I mean, you've talked about videos of like Elon Musk supposedly giving a speech at this big rally and saying these things. Never happened. That's not Elon Musk. How do you even believe what is real?
Well, the nesting doll that's going inside of this one is being birthed right now. This is what it would be like if a fiction that, you know, because outside, if you were disconnected from the internet, the Unreal Reporter, right, doesn't even exist. You don't have any exposure to them. But because we're in that environment, we created an internal nesting doll, and there will be one inside of that, and one side of that, and one side of that.
I had a weird thought the other day. Oh, Krista says the internet is the Antichrist.
Ooh, that's a good one. If I were the Antichrist, I would invent the internet for sure.
And be the internet. I am this power. Yep. I am this force causing havoc and wreaking havoc on things and spreading misinformation and making you believe things that aren't true and making you doubt and unable to believe anything good that happens. And
see, when you were a kid, you pictured red suit, horns, pitchfork, fire from the tail, whatever. So you'd be able to see, oh, that's the devil. Like, I'm certain of it. That's the devil. Yeah. Then Hollywood made a more humanized version of that where the person's dressed in black. Al Pacino. Right, but you still could identify based on their behaviors. Mm-hmm. And then real life was probably way more subtle than that, where you would have a hard time knowing. So it was left up to individuals to be able to pick out their favorite demon. And so we see it everywhere. We're like, oh, they're doing really bad stuff. That must be Satan. That must be Satan. And then you look around like, everything's freaking Satan. Everything's the devil.
Yeah, which I hear a lot sometimes, you know, when you have like intrusive thoughts or issues with anxiety and worry and all this, people will say, don't let the enemy do that to you. That's the enemy. And I'm like, or I'm jaded from just a lot of stuff I've seen in this world. And now I'm going to worry about it because that's a natural reaction to seeing a lot of horrific things. Or do you think it is in any way ever the enemy?
Do you know who's vindicated with this, don't you?
Who?
The Waterboy's mom. The Waterboy's mom knew everything was the devil. And she
Foosball is the devil.
Foosball's the devil.
Internet is the devil.
You could hear her voice, and you now know that she was right. It wasn't a.
Mama's
see what we did to her?
Right.
We mocked her. We thought, oh, who's this fundamentalist that thinks everything's the devil? And then you warm up today, and like, wow, she was freaking right. If we'd have just taken
alligators are ornery because they got all damn teeth and no toothbrush.
No toothbrush. And what is it? Medulla oblongata.
Yeah.
They got an enlarged medulla oblongata. Nope. It's the toothbrush theory. I'm telling you, we had it so wrong.
Yeah.
You guys really put on a great show. I miss Dan Rivers, but not quite as much. Well, thank you, Carter.
Thanks.
High five to Carter.
Remind me, Julie says, I know I've heard that word before. QAnon.
QAnon.
Yeah. I know I've heard that and I can't remember what it is.
That's a good question.
Because I don't remember anything anymore. Apparently, nothing is real. But
what if we looked it up and said QAnon has never existed? This is a figment of your imagination.
Oh my gosh, I would believe it now.
I want the origin of what it is. Okay, QAnon is a far-right decentralized political movement and conspiracy theory that emerged out of 2017. It is rooted in the baseless claims that the world is controlled by the deep state. Oh.
This is sounding familiar.
Yeah. a cabal of Satan-worshipping pedophiles. Oh.
Trump is secretly working to defeat this cabal.
Dude, I may be a believer in QAnon. Do I think that government is made up of pedophiles? Epstein list.
Epstein.
Do we think there is a deep state that wishes to destroy certain people? Yeah. So maybe I'm.
Oh, what was that? Go back. It spreads. Oh, that's just promotion of a conspiracy theory. Dangerous and unfounded conspiracy theory.
Well, you know what? I don't know if they have an official induction ceremony, but I'm halfway tempted to join my brethren.
But it said, so if you go up, does it say it's involved with the far right?
Yeah, what makes it far right?
How can it be far right and people believe Trump is working against to defeat them?
You know what? Honestly, if you okay, so if there were a deep state and you had an organization that was coming after the deep state to tell everyone what's really going on, what would the deep state do? It would write an article like this, that they're a far right conspiracy, loony, racist, whatever group, and that way no one would take them serious. And now they've been thwarted going after the deep state.
I don't think I fully understand what deep state is. What is that? What is I've heard of it.
We talked about it early in the show. These are the people that have money, power, and control, and they can operate behind the scenes, right? And they're really pulling the strings on what happens. So we think our representatives are doing things and our president is doing things. It's their controllers that formulate what they do and where they go. Like an example of, we have a presidency that is open to every single citizen of the United States that's over 45 years old. And these are the people that are born here. These are the people that are presented as the best persons to do the job because they're installed by the deep state, because nobody in the public would pick those guys to be our only options. The only reason they're president is because you had two options and both of them sucked.
Kind of like I say, when's the last time you felt good about an election? Like, oh, we have so many great options. I don't even know.
The deep state has provided your terrible options for president.
So this QAnon is saying the storm, the Great Awakening. QAnon followers anticipate a mass arrest of powerful individuals involved in the alleged cabal referred to as the storm. They also believe in a Great Awakening where everyone will realize the truth of QAnon theories. You're joining, aren't you?
I'm totally joining.
So QAnon is fighting against the people that are the abusers,
the cabal.
And the...
Yes.
Okay.
They seem like the good guys in this.
Like the vigilantes.
Yes.
Oh, Krista says, first Julie says, you're already there, Joe. Krista says, no, don't join QAnon. Just don't do it.
Tell me, which part of that summary should I not be super happy to join against?
Are we confused, Krista? Because it sounds like they're like,
this is Batman.
Are they like Anonymous? You know, the group Anonymous?
Right.
Where they're going after bad people.
Yeah, they're staying anonymous because they know the deep state would come after them if they tried to unseat all these powerful pedophiles that are doing harm to people. Come on. This is Batman.
But then how is Trump working with them if he is, of course, because he is in it. Just like if a military infiltrates,
he can't say
an enemy organization by planting someone in there.
Yes.
Yeah, delve into it, then don't join.
All right. Well, I'll see if like what the deep state said, and maybe the deep state has given good enough reasons not to join, and so like that summary with Google, like Google's liberal, right? But they put a summary together that was almost like a membership drive for QAnon. That was actually where's the stuff that should make me outraged about it?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't. So QAnon is the idea is that they are
against the deep state.
Yeah. Working underground to fight
the deep state pedophiles.
Yeah, save kids, save people, and have this great awakening where one day everybody realizes they were right. Here's who the bad guys are. Again, why is this a bad thing? Is it just not true? And maybe Krista and Julie can tell us, do you think it's just not true? Or it is true, but don't join? Why would Joe not join? He's most likely in the Epstein files. Krista says, I think they're talking about Trump is most likely in the Epstein files. But then why would Trump help QAnon?
Makes no sense. We're onto something here with this QAnon thing. So I'll dig into it and see if it's worth joining or what the membership fees are and what you have to do.
What are the
Because
membership fees?
I don't have a lot of time to go to meetings and shit. So if there's meetings involved, I probably can't go.
Isn't Anonymous mostly sort of in the tech world?
Well, Anonymous, it's awesome because you could, Anonymous was created that sort of like a computer voice, and you have this anarchy group that is against all things establishment. And at some point, Anonymous was compromised and it just became like a liberal thing. But Anonymous used to be against all things that were establishment. And I was a big supporter of Anonymous because they wielded an incredible amount of power, but they did it for good as a fight against the deep state, the bureaucrats, the
Were
people
you
who
ever part of Anonymous?
I'm super interested in it. I was never a participant though.
Exactly
okay,
what
so
somebody would say.
In Fight Club, would you be part of Fight Club once you knew that they were anti-establishment and were fighting against the machine, blowing up banks and all that kind of stuff? Would you be on that side?
Listen, number one rule of Fight Club.
You don't talk about Fight Club. I know. I should have known that. Did I just get kicked out of Fight Club? I think I did. If the deep state is real, how is the richest, most powerful man not part of the deep state? Well, those things aren't completely linked. It's almost like all collies are dogs, but not all dogs are collies.
Yeah.
Yes, most of the people who have the power and control became rich because of their induction into the deep state, but there's some people who did not get rich because they connected with the deep state.
And there is a real thing about infiltrating an enemy, putting someone in them, among them, living among them. You see it in FBI, planting moles or rats or whatever. You see it in military ops. Would it be so far-fetched to think that somebody in government that seems to be so unequivocally a certain way, why would you even question it, would be a plant?
Could be. If you had the power, and it can it be done? If I had money and power, could I plant someone somewhere?
Yeah.
And if I couldn't get caught and there weren't laws that really applied to me and I could work through other people to have it done, then it's almost assured that it is happening if it is possible and there's nothing there to stop it. So that's the deep state. We don't know what it is. We can't give it definition. We can't name names, but we know it has to exist because mathematically it's a certainty.
Did you ever see, I saw something like a week or so ago, and then I never heard it again. But it was an article implying Michael Myers, the actor Mike Myers, was like hired to something with the Epstein files. Was like a covert whatever to dig up some stuff, posing as like a comedian actor. Have you heard anything about this?
No.
I have to look into that. I could be way off, but I swear I saw something online where everyone's like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Mike Myers, the actor, is not who we think he is. And so, again, that could just be internet drivel. I don't know. But it makes you think, who could just not be who we thought they were?
Probably more than
this
you
whole
think.
time.
Probably more than you think.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and in the 90s, see, when we grew up around organized crime, we got to see a lot of how business actually happened. So I got insight into what you would have to do, what control, power, and influence you'd have to put things that shouldn't even be possible straight through. So there was a company.
Got 5 minutes.
Oh,
5 minute warning.
There was a company that was fabricating court cases. Okay. And so they had this whole line of people that were in different specialties that, if paid or negatively influenced to do something, could say and do something. So I was approached, this was probably early 90s. And this was the time when floppy disks existed. And a guy came to me and said, I've got some data on this floppy disk and I need you to make the date say something different. Right? It's going to say the date on the file. I need it to be an earlier date. And I was like,
that sounds illegal.
and I said, yeah, I can potentially do that, but I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want to, I've got integrity. I've got a new business here. Like, I don't want to I don't want to get myself in trouble. And so the first thing was try to give me money or opportunity to try to bait me into changing the date for the court case. And then when the money didn't work, then they threatened and said they were going to end me and they were going to pull all my customers and they owned everybody and nobody was ever going to do business with me or whatever. But I in that moment, I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going to go there. Thinking like, there's not going to be somebody who looks to see if that was altered. They're not going to have their own special, but it was, they got somebody else to do it. Right. It wasn't me. And it went right through. Nobody questioned it and whatever. So I'm thinking this organized crime took advantage or took control of somebody's decision-making. They passed it through a court system that obviously overlooked a glaring, data concern that there was an alteration done on this disk. But it went right through and it created a non-conviction based on this event. And
what do you think would happen if you went to somebody and say, hey, this court case you're working on, they approached me to change that date. And I bet you that date's been changed. You'd probably your life would be in jeopardy.
I have hesitation even 30 years later, almost 30 years later, to even say this because I know two of the people that asked me are already dead. So they're not even on this planet, but there's one of them that still exists. Didn't name names, didn't even allude to who they are or what they have connection with. And I will never, ever, ever tell because I know that bad things can happen if I ever told them.
They're already dead of natural causes? Or... Oh, God.
Anyway, but that just was an example. If they had the ability to do it and they controlled enough people in that mathematics to get an outcome that they wanted. So do that in government where there's much more power, much more money, and a lot of how many? Okay. So what would it take? How much time we got left? We got like 1 minute. Yeah. So it would not take a lot if you take random person off of the street, get them to do something that was suspect illegal, if given either the right money pressure or threat pressure to be able to make you do the thing. And then if somebody gets in trouble, it's not them, right? It's you. And so think how much of that goes on in government. But anyway, we did well today.
This was fun.
And thank you everybody for commenting. We'll be back tomorrow. We're not talking about conspiracy theories, but this was nice that we didn't talk about politics today.
Yeah.
And that made me happy.
It was a fun time, fun show.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you for your support.